Have you ever considered the idea of growing your own food at home? The thought might seem daunting at first, but the rewards are well worth the effort. Homegrown food not only saves you money, but also allows you to enjoy the gratifying experience of tending to your own garden, witnessing the cycle of life right in your apartment or backyard. Imagine having the convenience of reaching out for fresh herbs while cooking, or biting into a tomato that was on the vine just minutes ago. The flavors are unparalleled, and the nutritional benefits immense. Growing your own food means you control what goes into your body, and that's a significant step towards a healthier lifestyle. In this video, we'll guide you step by step on how to start this exciting venture. From identifying the perfect spot to harvest, we've got you covered. Start this rewarding journey with us, and let's transform your home into a green haven. The first step in growing food at home is identifying the perfect spot. This step is pivotal, for it lays the foundation for a thriving garden that will soon be home to a variety of healthy and delicious produce. Now you might be wondering, what makes a spot perfect for gardening? Well, the answer is sunlight and space. Plants, as you may remember from your science class, require sunlight for photosynthesis, a process that helps them produce their own food. Without sufficient sunlight, your plants may struggle to grow and produce. So, when scouting for the perfect spot, look for areas that receive at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight a day. Space is another crucial factor. Plants need room to stretch their roots and leaves. Crowding them can lead to stunted growth and lower yields. Whether you're planning to grow a single herb pot or a full-blown vegetable garden, ensure there's ample space for your plants to flourish. Now we understand that not everyone has access to a sprawling backyard, and that's perfectly okay. Gardening is not confined to the outdoors. In fact, indoor gardening is a great option for those living in apartments or houses with limited outdoor space. All you need is a sunny windowsill or a well-lit room. Balcony gardening is another fantastic alternative, especially for urban dwellers. It's amazing how much you can grow in pots and containers on a small balcony. Just make sure the area gets enough sunlight and can support the weight of your plants in containers. And of course, if you do have a backyard, it can be the ideal place to start a garden. The open space, the direct sunlight, and the connection with nature make it a gardener's paradise. Remember, gardening is a flexible hobby. It isn't about having the perfect conditions, but rather about making the best of what you have. So look around, be creative, and see potential in every nook and cranny. The perfect spot for your garden is out there, waiting to be discovered. Now that you've found your spot, the next step is choosing the right plants. A world of greenery awaits you, but before you dive in, there are a few things to consider. Firstly, keep in mind your local climate and the space you have available. These are vital factors in determining which plants will thrive in your care. For instance, if you live in a region with a lot of sunshine and warm temperatures, you might want to consider heat-loving plants like tomatoes, peppers, or basil. If you're short on space, don't fret. Many vegetables, such as lettuce or spinach, grow well in shallow containers and don't require a lot of room to spread out. Next, think about your personal preferences. After all, the joy of home gardening comes from growing and consuming your own produce. So ask yourself, what do you enjoy eating? If you're a lover of fresh salads, growing a variety of leafy greens might be the way to go. If you love cooking, herbs like rosemary, thyme, or parsley could become your new best friends. Now, for those of you just starting out on your gardening journey, you might be wondering, what are some easy plants to grow? Well, we've got you covered. Lettuce, radishes, and green beans are all great options for beginners. They grow quickly, which means you'll get to see the fruits of your labor sooner rather than later. Plus, they're quite forgiving, so you don't need to have a green thumb to succeed. There's also a whole world of edible plants beyond just vegetables. Consider growing fruits like strawberries or blueberries. They might require a little more patience as they take longer to produce their delicious bounty, but the wait is well worth it. And let's not forget about edible flowers. Marigolds, pansies, and nasturtiums can add a splash of color to your garden and your plate. Bear in mind, every plant has its own unique needs. Some might need more sun, some might need less. Some might thrive in moist soil, others in drier conditions. As you become more familiar with your plants, you'll start to understand their needs and preferences. And finally, don't be afraid to experiment. Gardening is all about learning and growing, quite literally. Maybe you'll find that you have a knack for growing zucchinis, or perhaps you'll discover a newfound love for homegrown mint tea. The possibilities are endless. So take some time to consider your options. Do a bit of research, make a plan, and before you know it, you'll be on your way to a thriving green oasis. Remember, the best plants for you are the ones you'll enjoy growing and consuming. Happy gardening. With your plants chosen, it's time to gather the necessary materials. A well-prepared gardener is a successful gardener, and having the right tools and materials at hand will make your gardening experience much smoother. Let's start with the basics. Soil is the foundation of your garden. You'll need a high-quality potting mix, designed to hold the right amount of moisture and provide the necessary nutrients for your plants. Organic potting mix is a great option for those who want to keep their gardens as natural as possible. Next, you'll need pots or containers. Depending on the type of plants you've chosen, the size and depth of the pots may vary. Ensure that the pots have proper drainage to prevent your plant's roots from becoming waterlogged and unhealthy. Seeds or seedlings are the next item on our list. If you're starting from seeds, remember that some need to be started indoors before being transplanted to your garden. Seedlings, on the other hand, are young plants that are ready to be planted directly into your garden. Choose what works best for you and your chosen plants. Now let's talk about gardening tools. A good pair of gardening gloves will protect your hands from dirt and any sharp objects in the soil. A hand trowel is perfect for digging small holes for your seeds or seedlings. Pruning shears will come in handy when it's time to trim your plants. And a watering can with a shower head will ensure your plants get evenly watered without washing away the soil. Last but not least, consider investing in a compost bin. Composting is a fantastic way to reduce kitchen waste and create nutrient-rich soil for your garden. It's a win-win situation for you and the environment. Remember, gardening is a process of learning and growth. Don't be discouraged if you don't have all the tools or if you make a mistake. The most important thing is to start, and over time, you'll learn what works best for your garden. With the right tools in hand, you're ready to start planting. Now comes the exciting part, planting your seeds. This is where the magic happens, where we take the first tangible steps towards growing our own food. To start off, it's important to remember that different seeds have different needs. Some seeds, like lettuce or spinach, are surface sown, meaning they need light to germinate and should not be covered with soil. Other seeds, like tomatoes or peppers, need to be planted deeper in the soil. As a rule of thumb, a seed should be planted about 3 times as deep as it is wide. When it comes to spacing, there's a delicate balance to strike. Plant seeds too close together and they'll compete for water and nutrients. Plant them too far apart and you're wasting valuable growing space. For most plants, a good rule of thumb is to space seeds about twice as far apart as the plants will eventually be wide. Now let's get our hands dirty. To plant your seeds, start by making a small hole in the soil with your finger or a pencil. The depth of the hole will depend on the size of the seed you're planting. Carefully drop the seed into the hole, then gently cover it with soil. Once you've planted your seeds, it's time to water them. Watering is vital for seed germination, but be careful not to overdo it. Too much water can cause seeds to rot or wash away, while too little can prevent them from germinating. The key is to keep the soil consistently moist but not waterlogged. If you're planting multiple types of seeds, it's a good idea to label your planters so you can remember what's growing where. You can use anything from popsicle sticks to wine corks. Just make sure it's something that won't get damaged by water or sun. After you've planted your seeds, it's a waiting game. Patience is key during this stage. It can take anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks for seeds to germinate, depending on the type of plant and the conditions. While you wait, it's important to keep the soil moist and ensure your seeds are getting plenty of light. Most seeds need a good amount of sunlight to germinate, so make sure your planters are in a sunny spot or under a grow light if you're indoors. And remember, just like us, seeds and plants are living things. They need care, attention, and a little bit of love to grow and thrive. So, take the time to check on your seeds daily. Keep the soil moist and make sure they're getting enough light. Congratulations, you've just planted your first seeds. This is just the beginning of your homegrown food journey. Now, it's time to nurture these seeds, watch them sprout, and eventually reap the fruits or veggies of your labor. Let's move on to the next step, caring for your plants. Planting your seeds is just the beginning. The next step is learning how to care for your plants. It's akin to nurturing a newborn, requiring patience, attention, and a little bit of love. Let's start with watering. The secret to watering isn't about the quantity, but rather the consistency. Imagine running a marathon. Rather than gulping down a gallon of water at the starting line, you'd sip regularly to keep hydrated throughout the race. Similarly, plants prefer a steady supply of water. Most plants need to be watered every 2 to 3 days, but this can vary depending on the type of plant and the climate. If the top inch of soil feels dry to the touch, it's time to water. Now, on to fertilizing. Think of this as feeding your plants. Just as you wouldn't survive on water alone, plants need nutrients to grow. A balanced fertilizer, one that contains equal parts nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, is usually a good choice for most plants. These elements promote leaf growth, root development, and fruit production, respectively. Apply fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season, but remember, less is more. Over-fertilizing can cause more harm than good, and then there are the pests. These uninvited guests can wreak havoc on your plants, but don't worry, there are ways to deal with them. Regularly check your plants for signs of pests, such as holes in the leaves or a sticky residue. If you spot any, a natural insecticidal soap can usually do the trick. For bigger pests like snails and slugs, you can handpick them off. Remember, a healthy plant is less likely to attract pests, so the best defense is good plant care. Light is another critical factor. Most fruiting plants prefer 6 to 8 hours of sunlight each day. If your plants aren't getting enough light, they may become weak and leggy. If you're growing indoors and lack sufficient natural light, consider using grow lights. Temperature is also worth considering. Most plants prefer a consistent temperature, with daytime temperatures around 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit and nighttime temperatures 10 to 15 degrees cooler. Sudden temperature changes can shock your plants, so try to keep their environment as stable as possible. Finally, let's talk about pruning. This might seem counterintuitive, but cutting back your plants can actually encourage them to grow more. Pruning helps to improve air circulation, increase light penetration, and promote new growth. Aim to remove about 1/3 of growth during each pruning session, focusing on dead or diseased branches first. In conclusion, plant care isn't just about keeping your plants alive, it's about helping them to thrive. With regular watering, appropriate fertilization, pest management, sufficient light, stable temperature, and timely pruning, you're not just growing plants. You're raising a green family. With proper care, your plants will thrive and produce delicious, homegrown food. Finally, after all your hard work, it's time to enjoy the fruits of your labor. The moment we've all been waiting for, the harvest. Harvesting is an art in itself, and doing it right can ensure the longevity of your plants and the quality of your produce. The first step in harvesting is knowing when your produce is ready. This can vary greatly depending on the type of plant. For example, leafy greens like lettuce and spinach can be harvested when they're young and tender, typically a few weeks after planting. Tomatoes, on the other hand, are ready when they've reached their full color, be it red, yellow, or even purple. But how can you tell if your fruits, like melons or peaches, are ready? Well, they usually have a sweet aroma when they are ripe. The skin of the fruit will also be slightly soft to the touch. And let's not forget about root vegetables like carrots and radishes. They're ready when the top of the root starts to peek out of the soil. Now, onto the actual process of harvesting. Always be gentle and try not to pull or tug too hard. For leafy greens, use a pair of garden shears and cut the leaves at their base. For fruits and vegetables growing on a vine like cucumbers or tomatoes, it's best to use a pair of pruners to cut the stem, leaving a small part of it attached to the fruit to prevent rotting. Root vegetables can be a bit tricky. Loosen the soil around the vegetable first, then gently pull it out by the greens. Never yank it out, as this can damage the vegetable and leave parts of it behind in the soil. Remember, the more you harvest, the more your plants will produce. So don't be shy about picking your produce. There's nothing like the taste of fresh, homegrown produce. Growing your own food at home may seem daunting at first, but with patience and care, anyone can do it. Let's take a moment to look back on the journey we've embarked on today. We started by identifying the perfect spot, whether it's in your apartment or in your backyard. We then explored the right plants to grow, those that would thrive in your specific environment. Gathering the necessary materials was our next step, ensuring we had everything we needed to start our homegrown food journey. Then we planted our seeds, nurturing them with love and care, watching them grow day by day. We learned how to care for our plants, ensuring they stay healthy and strong. Finally, we harvested our produce, reaping the fruits of our labor. So, are you ready to get your hands dirty and start growing your own food? The rewards are truly worth the effort.